What's up? How you doing? Here we are, bright and early in the morning. Beautiful day today. We have a slight breeze going on here, but it's perfect. Perfect temperature, perfect humidity. It's a feeling of well-being. That's what it is. A lot of grass here. Get some cattle, put it here. Very quiet. You know, quite a few times that I've been here, I've run into coyotes, but no road runners. But I have seen an Ace and Acme truck. It's funny, they see me and they start howling like a warning, stay back. One time I was hiking on these trails and I came to a place where I was above a trail below me. I could see it, and on the trail below me was a coyote. Coyotes. So nice. Feels like 1974 right now. It's the kind of place you want to have a little table here, a couple of stools, and a nice cold glass of lemonade with those perfect ice cubes that look like clear as a window, washed with Windex. You know, I don't know, I gotta look up how they make ice like that, nice and clear. Usually ice from a refrigerator is kind of cloudy looking, but when you go to a restaurant, nice restaurant, they give you ice cubes that are clear. You could use them as magnifying glasses. And I like the restaurants where you order a beverage and they bring you a spherical ice cube. I don't want to say ice cube because cube is not a sphere. But yeah, so I ended up going to one of these stores that sells these molds that are round, and I filled them up with water and I put them in the refrigerator, and they froze. And when I took them out, they were a bit, frosty looking. I know there's a trick. Beautiful mountains over there. We continue. Driving on the way up here, I was listening to Dexy's Midnight Runners, Come on Eileen. Love that song. And I've loved that song since it came out. That was a huge hit. Huge hit. I think that, I don't know if it was Beat It or I think it was Beat It. It was one of those Thriller songs from Michael Jackson that was on the top spot or something, and I think Come on Eileen knocked it out. Not sure, but I think that's what it was. But when that song came out, that was a big, big hit. They played it all the time. I mean, it's like a soundtrack to my youth. Love that tune. Airplane going by. So I was listening to that on the way up. Nice and loud on the radio. Good speakers, good bass, nice drums. And I don't know, to me that is such a good tune. Such a good tune. And by the way, Dexys, which is what they're called now, released a new album recently. New material. So if anybody's interested, I don't know, I mean, some reviews were okay, some were, not that great. But I like the band, and I'm a big fan of Kevin Rowland. I don't know where he shops and gets those outfits from. Maybe they're custom made, maybe he knows a tailor. But, I don't know. I mean, to me, they're a little bit loud. But for him, they look perfect. He's got these big, I don't know, wide pants. So I may get some wide pants. They look comfortable. But yeah, he's got a unique style. Very interesting. But yeah, that I mean, it's not like they had a lot of hits, but that was a home run, that song. I'd like to meet him. There's a few people I'd like to meet. Tom Waits, Lee Majors. I don't know. There's quite a few. I have a mental list somewhere in my head. I did meet Donnie and Marie, real life, very nice. Marie, we spoke to, you know, a couple of minutes, but Donnie, we spoke to for quite a while. I think he talked to us for like 15, 20 minutes. Very nice guy. I was very impressed. It was like almost, you know, like pulling somebody out of your childhood and time traveling and speaking to him. That's what it felt like. But he was very nice, and he took all the time in the world, because we were kind of like at the end of we had backstage passes, and he had spoken to a lot of other people ahead of us, and then we were kind of like the last ones, and so he gave us extra time, and I was very grateful. And Marie, during the concert, because we had like front row there, she threw her guitar pick, or tossed it, I should say. She tossed it to my daughter, and then so we went through that whole backstage thing. We spoke to them, and then my daughter realized that she had lost the pick, couldn't find it. And this is after we left, so we were already out in the lobby area, and I went back, and the security guard there, he gave me like, what do you need? And I explained to him, and then Donnie was like right maybe 10 feet in, and he heard, and he came over and he said, oh, Amy, come here. So we went back in, and he went over to the back area. I don't know, they must have a box of picks, and he grabbed the pick, and he called Marie over, because she was still in the room, and he said to her, can you give this to her again, because she lost the one you gave her, you know, on stage. So she did. She grabbed it again, and she handed it to my daughter. And, you know, it was very nice of them. I was a huge fan of the Donnie Marie show when that would come on. My weekend did not begin until that show came on, and they sang at the very end, may tomorrow be a perfect day. That tune was the kickoff for my weekend. And of course, I would get up the next day bright and early, 7 a.m. The day is beginning. And I would start watching the cartoons. Once in a while I would go in the kitchen and grab a nice cold glass of orange juice, and then I would go back in my room and continue. But I didn't just sit there watching in a chair. I would get on the bed and I would jump up and down, up and down. I had these fat pillows that I would grab like this, and I would leap from the backboard, the headboard. I would leap up, and I felt like I was up there for like a few seconds, which I wasn't, probably like a quarter second, and then I would land on the pillows on my bed, and I did that all day until 2. And then I would like box with the pillow. I had a chair that would spin. I had a blast in my room in those days. And then, you know, because I had them all memorized, I knew it. This time it was this station, at this time I'd go here, you know, I kept going back and forth. I'd watch all these cartoons, and then once around 2 o'clock rolled around, then I knew that was it for my Saturday morning cartoons, because Fat Albert, which I loved that cartoon, Fat Albert would come on at around 2. I think it was 2 to 2:30. And once that was done, I was like, okay, another week gone. I started noticing back then this whole concept of time flying. You know, I was like, hey, wait, I just did this last week and the week before, and you know, here I am now doing it, and that was decades ago. But big fan of that. And then a lot of times, you know, if I was like, you know, in the house, maybe it was chilly out, I don't know, bowling would come on. It was like Saturday bowling, PGA, and most times it was a guy named Earl Anthony, and the other guy, was the other guy there, Mark Roth. And I'd watch them. I love watching bowling. I mean, it's not like a, a fast-paced activity, but I enjoyed it. I still enjoy watching good bowling. So I'd watch them, and then, sometimes I had Tarzan on, Johnny Weissmuller, my favorite Tarzan of all time. I'd watch that. But if it was nice out, decent, not like, it didn't have to be like this nice. It could be like fall time, that kind of nice. I would go downstairs, jump on my bike, and I would take off and not return until I got tired of not being home. So then I'd finally get home and, go in my room and turn on my Zenith black and white television set and watch something else. So we played in those days. We played. Kids today, they don't know what it means to play. So good times, good childhood. I had a great childhood, great memories. Lots of adventures, lots of, they leave it to Beaver style adventures, always something going on. But the cartoons were a huge part of being a kid back then. Everybody watched them. And then you'd run into, you'd go downstairs and you'd look around the neighborhood and there was always some kid, roaming around. And you'd bump into them and then you'd spend the day together. You'd end up finding more kids. Stickball was a big thing on one of the side streets where I lived. You would go by there and you would see a bunch of kids playing stickball or hockey without the ice. Hide and seek. Hide and seek in those days was fun because you could use any area that you could think of. As far as it was, they'd come looking for you. And I had a lookout tree. I would climb the tree all the way up and I'd keep an eye out where the other side was when they would be looking for us. Very fun times. But fall time, can't say enough about fall time. I enjoyed that crisp, air, that nice smell, that fall time, that foliage, all that. I loved it. That was when you put on a nice jacket, nice and cozy, washed it with Downy. Yep. Anyway, we continue to a different spot. There's a very satisfying freshness in the air. Very satisfying. So after I leave here, I'm gonna go to car wash. Funny thing about that car wash, the specific one I'm going to today, it was a few years ago. It was like 3-4 years back. I was at that car wash. I was waiting for my car to get washed. And another truck pulled in, a blue one. And I see a guy, it's like, maybe like, 65, 70 feet ahead of me, parks into one of the stalls to get his car washed. And as he's coming out of his truck, his cell phone, his iPhone, falls to the ground. And he picks it up, he's all annoyed, he's got the pissed off, mannerisms. And as he starts walking closer to me, I realize it's Frank Stallone. And I said hi to him. I said, "Hi, Frank." And he gave me a nod. And then he went inside, he paid, and, he waited not too far from me for his vehicle to get, fixed up. I left, and that's the second time I bumped into him. But he was pissed off. So, and I was surprised, the truck was a little bit outdated, a little bit. So, the other time I had met him before that time was at the auction. I was at an auction where they were auctioning off all of the memorabilia from the Sylvester Stallone movies, and he was there too. So Frank was there, talking to everybody. He was doing some boxing moves and very you know, nice guy in real life there. I don't know in fake life if he's different, but in real life he's a very nice guy. So I was like, okay, I'm going to ask Stallone. I know I've said this before, but I'm going to ask Stallone for a picture, because there were other people going up to him throughout the time I was there, and they was like, can I take a picture? And he's like, yeah, sure. And they were doing the picture thing. I was standing next to him for a while, but I didn't bother him because he was talking to, you know, some of his friends that were with him. They were all dressed up in nice suits. And I said, I'll ask him in a little bit. Plus, I was going to be there for 2 days. So just when I was thinking of asking him, he turns around, gets to the door, and he says, does a goodbye to everybody thing, and he left. I was like, missed opportunity. So I said, I'll see him tomorrow. So anyway, Frank was there, Frank Stallone, and I spoke to him. I asked him for a picture, and he's a very approachable guy, and he said, yeah. So I took a picture with him, a couple of pictures, and Chuck Zito was there. He was sitting at a table by himself. So when I talked to him for a little bit, and I asked him for a picture, and he was very nice guy. I can't say enough about how nice he was that day. Very nice guy. And so we took a picture together, and I was like, you know, you think about him and the Hells Angels thing, and you would expect, you know, an edgy guy, but he's not edgy at all. He's a very nice guy. So, so then I stayed at that auction for a while. They were auctioning off all the stuff. I checked out all the, you know, stuff from First Blood, which I was not impressed with the knife. When you see the knife in real life, it's not that impressive looking. So, but anyway, so I went back the next day, and Sylvester Stallone did not show up the second day. So I was kind of annoyed that I didn't ask him for a picture, but I've run into him a few times. You know, one time I was in my truck driving, and I look and I see somebody who looks like him, and I was immediately thinking, that's a lookalike. He was walking by, and then he got closer to me, and I looked and I go, no, that's him. And he was coming out of a Pilates gym in that neighborhood. And then another time I saw him again, but now I knew that he would be in that area because he used to go to that Pilates gym. And he was in, I think it was an Audi. Not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure, like 80% sure that it was an Audi. And he pulled out in front of me and he drove off. But he had tunnel vision that day because, you know, he was trying to like ignore people that were noticing him. Although nobody noticed, I noticed, but that was it. So I ran into him a couple of times, and another time I ran into him at a Beverly Hills gas station. So I was getting gas, and in the back there was a guy in a nice vehicle. It was a truck, SUV, and he was on his cell phone, and I go, that's Stallone. But I didn't bother him. I didn't pull out the camera and get up to the window and start taking pictures of him. But, you know, I wanted that picture at the auction, but I didn't have the nerve to bother him, so I missed the opportunity. Next time. But yeah, so that was it. You know, I was like looking at all the stuff, and in my opinion, it was overpriced. You know, it's like a lot of money for that stuff. Anyway, now it's getting a little bit warm. Even though the sun is over 90 million miles from here, you can feel it. It's amazing. The atmosphere takes the heat in and keeps it. And even though that object, the sun, is like, what is it, 92 million, 93 million miles from here, it takes about 8 minutes for the light from the sun to reach us, which means if the sun blew up just now, in reality, where it is, it would take about 8-9 minutes before we noticed it here. It's a crazy concept. You know, it would still be in the sky, even though it doesn't exist anymore. So you can imagine how many stars in the universe at night that we see that are gone. But they're there because the light from the explosion or whatever has not reached us yet. So that's why I always hear about Beetlejuice. It's going to explode soon. How do we know that it hasn't already done that, but that the light from the explosion hasn't reached us? Yeah, nobody knows that. So nice out. I feel like putting a chair here with an umbrella and watching a baseball game. So when I see grass like this dried out, it reminds me of this memory I have as a very, very young child. Very small. It was like about that big. And in the memory, I'm walking with my mother through an area like this, not quite as big, a lot smaller, but the grass is like this, and we cross down and we're in a town, but there's grass like this on one of the little hills, and then further over there's these two vents that stick out of the ground with those mushroom tops. So, and I was in that memory, I was very, very young. But that's what this stuff reminds me of. I don't know how cows eat this and digest it. I know they have like, what, a couple of stomachs in there. But personally, I think if you were hungry, you could cut all this stuff down into little pieces and then just boil the crap out of it. And eventually it would get tender enough if you had a little olive oil and vinegar. And then you could eat this stuff. But is there anything in there nutritious? I don't know. It looks like a lot of fiber, but the cows, they survive. You don't see them with scurvy. Beautiful sky. Like, I don't even see a tenth of a cloud, let alone a cloud. I see nothing, just blue. Very beautiful. It's a nice color, you know. It's like, you know, the sunlight, the molecules that make up the atmosphere, when it passes through the atmosphere, the sunlight reflects in a blue. Imagine if it was some other disgusting color like beige. It would always look dingy, but you get this nice blue. Blue is a nice color for the sky. Blue, like a greenish, you know, nice green looking blue. Red would be, I don't know, like all hell would break loose with red. Orange, another. And then you have the sun coming through the atmosphere, looks yellow to us, but it's actually white. If you're in outer space, without the influence of the Earth's atmosphere, the sun looks white, not yellow. Anyway, that's it for now. Ciao.